G'day everybody, lovely to have your company. It's a Saturday afternoon. We head towards the kick-off, 3 o'clock, the Raiders and the Tigers. Will it be the day the Raiders, the JJ Giltinan Shield, will be there in beautiful Canberra? If they win that game, they are the minor premiers, and deservedly so. My name's Tony Squires, joined by Wade Graham, Nathan Hindmarsh and Brent Read. How are we, gentlemen?
Fantastic, Tony. It's great to be here, and you know, a big result last night for the Roosters. What are you laughing at, Hindy? Just straight out the gate. A big result from the Roosters last night. It's looking like we're getting closer and closer to finalising that top 8, heading into the finals. Maybe a little bit of shuffling still to go within that 8, but the Roosters, what a massive result down there in Melbourne. I know Reedy was there. He's probably got some stories.
Well, Reedy was, I think he was in, because of Reedy's coaching prowess, as we all know, I think he was invited into the coach's box.
That might have been the issue.
To give Craig Bellamy some advice.
Any wonder they got touched up, really.
Did you do the halftime address?
No, I didn't go in the sheds at halftime.
Did you want to go in the sheds at halftime? Did you try and
I would
sneak
love
in?
to have been, well, not at halftime. I'd love to have been in there at full time.
Fly on the wall stuff?
Because he wasn't happy.
Yeah.
He wasn't happy.
Well,
and you can't blame him,
Why would
really.
you be? 40
way
points
they
against,
played
you know,
second
Melbourne Storm having 40 points and a half scored against them. That's...
It was bizarre because in the entire first half, all the commentary was the purple wall, you know, the defence, and it was the purple sieve in the second half. 40 points in one half, the most that's ever been scored against Melbourne in a half of rugby league in the NRL.
Yeah, and they had a lot of players out tone, but there's still no... In Craig's eyes, if you put that jersey on, you've got to aim up, right? And they didn't do that. So that's why he was bitterly disappointed. And, you know, obviously they've got it's a big loss 2 weeks out before the finals. That's the concern for me. They'll get some blokes back next week. Look, Jerome Hughes will probably play next week, so he's a big in. They won't rest any players, Craig said last night, next week. So they need to perform well next week against the Broncos just to get a bit of a spring back in their step.
Well, that's good intel because, you know, you were down there, you obviously felt the mood after the game. But the question for me was going to be, okay, if they had a plan to rest players, are they happy to just put a line through that result, continue on with that current plan, or because of the result and because of the way they played, do they get everyone back on looking to get their football in order before the finals? So it's good. It's good intel that, Reedy, because they've done a couple of different ways. Melbourne over the years, they've rested players in the final round, and although it was a poor showing last night, they're still locked away in that second position. They still have the home semi first week of the finals. So,
but you know, the 40 points, you kind of think if it was another side that had the 40 points put on them, you go, well, are they serious contenders? But this is Melbourne Storm, who we know they can put those bad games behind them quite quickly, especially with a coach like Bellamy. So look, I'm not concerned. Yeah, it was a bad result at the end of the day for them defensively, but I'm not sitting here going, oh, geez, that's really shaken up the Storm and their run to the grand final. I don't see them still faltering.
Well, I don't think anyone changes their view on Melbourne, but certainly the view on the Roosters. And if they carry that form into the finals, no matter where they finish in the bottom half of that 8, they're going to be an issue for some teams if they can play that style and play that well in the finals.
Well, it's one of those, like under 7s, just give it to the best kid on the side. It was Mark
Nawaqanitawase.
He's honestly a freak, absolute freak. Some of those, that little way he did there, and just... It was
the height he gets when he's leaping for the ball as well. He's a great athlete.
He's exciting to watch.
He absolutely is. Can we just swing back a bit, Reedy, go back before the game? So you were down there also for Craig Bellamy's, the function to do with his 600th game.
Yeah, he had about 3 functions from the week time, but I went to one on Wednesday night. Ricky Stewart and Laurie Daly were there as well. It was with his family. And John Stevens was there, the rocker, because he loves his Aussie rock music, Craig. So John Stevens.
Did he have a sing?
He played a couple of songs, one of the, I can't remember the noise.
Hot Chili Woman?
No, he didn't play that one. Can't remember it. He played a Barnesy song.
Yeah.
I can't remember what that was.
What kind of night?
Actually, no, he did sing an NXS song.
Did he?
He did, I can't remember what it was.
It's got a new album coming out.
But no, it was really good. I mean, it was amazing because Craig was on stage for 45 minutes being interviewed by Jared Waitley. It's the most I've ever heard Craig sort of talk about what he values in a football club and what he values in a football team. And that's the thing, when you hear him talk about that and how he values effort, and that's the thing that his entire life's been built on effort, because he comes from Portland, you know, working class family, worked really hard as a footballer. Then they go out and play like they did. You can sort of appreciate why he would have been so upset on Friday night, because everything he does as a football coach, it's about 2 things. It's about care for your teammates, care for the club, and it's about effort. working hard during the week, and that reflects in how you play on the weekend. And the effort was missing on Friday night.
Have you seen his documentary or the Storm's documentary?
I have,
It's on Bellamy.
Yeah.
It's if you haven't seen it, it's an outstanding watch. And I'm not big on the the local homegrown sort of stories. But this I couldn't. And I sat down with my boys and watched it. And said, see, this is if you want to become a professional rugby league player, sit and watch that and find out what you need to do and how you have to go about your work to become a professional player.
Do you wish you'd spent that time and learned those lessons before you coached your team in the grand final last weekend?
Why'd you have to go there, Tony? I felt like Craig Bellamy last night after that grand final.
Were you furious?
I wasn't furious, no. No, they made it.
What, 3-2?
They were 3-0 down in the second half. They scored with...
But how did they get to 3-0 down? Like on it in all, were they cheap goals? Was it laziness? Was it lack of...
Lack of
desire,
care, lack of effort.
Was it lack of preparation?
It always is lack of something, isn't it, when you concede a goal?
Skill.
So it's a bit deflating. But they dug deep, they fought hard. The problem though, because all the games got moved to synthetic turf grounds, they played no extra time. So the game was over at 90 minutes. We scored in the 89th minute.
And you were
to
coming
make it
for
3-2,
them.
we were coming for them. They were in panic mode. They played no extra time.
How much stoppage time was
at
there?
least 10 minutes.
You reckon you would have? That was like in the 01 grand final. If only there was extra time. We were coming for the Knights. Just if the game went for 100 minutes.
We were a bit unlucky in that respect. But it was. They did well. They had a good year.
Any charges, any injury news from the games thus far, Reedy?
Well, Jacob Kraz was a big injury news time with that foot problem. You guys will speak to Cameron Serraldo later, but it looks like he won't be back to the prelim final with that foot problem. In terms of charges, there were 3 charges out of Thursday night. Jacob Preston, Kurt Mann and Lipowitz, the young debutant. But they're all fines.
He's going to the Catalans.
He's going to Catalans. Yeah, they're all fines. Dallin got charged for a dangerous throw in the Warriors. Again, a fine. But the interesting one for me is Nelson. Obviously, played last night. Got charged with a careless eye tackle. Now, with an early guilty plea, it's only a fine. But the problem for Nelson is that's his 3rd offence. So his next offence, he's gone regardless of what happens. And they've got, obviously, I think they reset when the finals start. I can't remember if they reset or how it works, but they do reset to an extent when the finals begin. So I imagine he will play next week because he needs some miles in his legs. He's got to avoid getting charged because if he gets charged, he'll miss a lot of finals games.
All right, so let's get back into that game. 10-0, the Storm led at halftime. They seem to be so up for it. There was a lot of niggle in the game. Chan was getting under Angus Crichton's skin, absolutely. And you thought, well, obviously for their coach that they're going to do that. They're so terrific at Milestone games in Melbourne usually. So you thought that was going to happen. And that turnaround, the Roosters attack, and as you say, the right edge attack with Mark Nawaqanitawase at the end of it was just sensational.
Yeah, it's what makes that second half so odd for the Melbourne Storm because they performed and defended well throughout the first half. And you're right, their attitude looked like it was in the right place. They were committed. The game was very willing. And they went up to that 10-0 lead and we're all sitting there like, well, here we go again. Melbourne just doing Melbourne things. But then the Roosters in that second half, they came out and they just turned it on. And I know we talked about marking Mark before, but I can't remember watching a player where every week he performs, there is a highlight on the reel. Every week he comes up with something that you just go, wow, where did that come from? And again, some of the tries last night, the in and away, as Hindy said, the awareness of where his body is, to get the feet up, hold the ball in one hand, plant it over. It's just incredible. And the right-hand attack for the Roosters and the left-hand edge defence for the Storm, they were just on different levels last night. That second half in particular, well, only in that second half. And rarely have we seen a Melbourne Storm team concede line breaks, tries, in such a continuous way in a half of football. And again, I don't think anyone changes their opinion on Melbourne and what they can do in the finals because you can forgive them, Craig Bellamy, players coming back. But the Roosters, they had a slip up last week against Parramatta.
Yep.
But back with flying colours this week, and they'll be confident heading into the final.
Well, at the moment on the live letter, they put themselves 2 games ahead in terms of that eighth spot. So, and their for and against again after last night is much better. The Dolphins, if they were to lose to the Titans, well, that's it. It's all done. Manly would still be hoping for to scrape in, but the numbers don't look like anything other than the Roosters getting that 8th spot.
No, Manly would need a miracle time, and it would require some big wins on their behalf and a big loss for the Roosters against South Sydney in that last game. So they're in the box seat, the Roosters. They were fantastic in the second half, fantastic. And obviously James Tedesco again, he's just been so good for them all year. He just creates so much for that footy club. And the guy was really he's been impressive all year, was Nafau White. Yeah. I think he played the entire first half and started the opening 10 or 15, 20 of the second half. His development this year has been ridiculous.
Yeah. Considering where he was, I thought at the start of the year, and I'm a bit of a hard marker, but just his defence was what I was looking at. We all know he has the attack, but it was little things in his defensive structure that was kind of hurting the side at the start of the year, where he wasn't tying in. He would be lazy from marker. So there was a lot of inside balls getting thrown against the Chooks at the start of the year, purely because he wasn't tying in, he wasn't moving. But as the season's gone on, you see that he's improved out of sight with that. Even with the crossfield kicks, he's still moving to follow the ball across in case there's any crumbs. So he's definitely. He
came up with a great tackle in the first half. It was on Stefano, I think it was.
Yeah, one-on-one, and exactly what you were saying, Hindy, tying in, not clocking off.
Not clocking off, because he was clocking off at the start of the year badly, and there was a lot of tries leaking through where he should have been. So he's obviously worked on that. They've seen that in video, and well done to him for fixing it.
Another guy who I was really impressed with too was Victor Radley on the edge. Now, we're used to seeing him in the middle, and it's a bit of a different game in there. The fatigue, the speed, it's more constant, and I just found when he was on the edge last night, it looked like he was a little bit sharper with his work. He was so effective, punching that hole, and he's got the offload ability. We all know he's a great ball playing forward, and just that little bit of extra energy and saving himself from that defensive load. He looked really sharp last night on the edge, Victor.
He had that look on his face, and man, I'm about to score a try here before I got the ankle tap.
Yeah, I know.
As he's falling down. How did that happen? I love it. Hey, just take us back into the coach's box again, because it's a place that, and we often with Craig Bellamy, it's so fascinating to watch from the outside. What, in terms of his role and how much communication there is in there, just talk us through what he's like.
Well, we all see him blowing up in there, Tone. And I think one thing I did note was, he does explode, right? Particularly in the first half. There were moments where he got really peeved, right? Mm-hmm. But he switches back on. So he vents. It's almost like he vents, gets it out, gets out of his system, and straight away switches back on to what they got to do. And obviously things were going pretty good in that first half. So he was offering little sort of subtle hints when Teddy would slip out a dummy half and beat a couple of tackles. Craig would just remind them, the markers, to sort of be disciplined and read and react rather than, going off half cocked, I guess. And the big other thing was, they would when Teddy would run the ball, you got to. He kept saying you got to stick to him, because players drop off him all the time. So, Aaron, who's his son's one of the assistants, and he's the guy on the walkie-talkie who sends the messages down to Ryan Hinchcliffe on the sideline. So, but he listens to Aaron and Mark Brentnell's the other assistant who's in the box. He takes advice off them and then decides what he wants to do. But yeah,
were you ever scared in there?
I was scared.
Nervous about he's going to turn around and tell us all to F off out of here soon.
Well,
do you get that feeling?
Jerome Hughes and Nick Meaney were in the back of the box in the first half, and I was just standing up behind them. Yeah. And I've got to say, in the second half in particular, I didn't want to catch his eye. I didn't want him looking at me. I didn't want him remembering I was in there. I didn't want him, because in the second half, things, it was like things went, like they had no ball. I think at one point, it was 33 minutes in the second half, and Craig said there's got to the statisticians in there as well. And Craig turned to the statistician and said, what are our completions? And the guy went 4 from 9. He's gone 4 completed sets in 33 minutes. A bit louder and a bit more
fruity,
aggressive tone. It's gone, I've never had that. Has that ever happened? Because they just had no ball in the second half. When they had it, I think they finished the match completing 4 for 9, like 5 for 10 or something, which is just to only have 10 sets in a half is ridiculous. Yeah. So you can sort of understand why, when you see that, you understand why the scoreline was so lopsided. But I didn't want him second half. I didn't want him seeing me. No, I sort of ducked down a little bit because the second half, Eli Katoa came in. Nick Meaney left, and poor Eli Katoa. So I was sort of hiding behind Eli Katoa.
It was a great night, and they had a lot organised for him post game as well. The NRL, Abdo flew down to present him.
He would have been looking forward to that.
I reckon he went to that through gritted teeth.
Oh, yeah. But could you imagine anything like you've just been handed a 40-point thumping in one half of footy, and then you got to go and accept your 600 game ball? Is that what did he get a ball?
No, I can't.
Or a medal, or maybe a ring, or a watch. What would you like for your 600th?
Cash.
Yeah, it's not a bad go, though. Yeah.
Good call.
See, I think he would have just preferred to win, to be honest. That's all he
Oh,
wanted.
that's boring, though, isn't it? Then
I'll
you
tell
want
you
something to walk away
it
like
was-
a nice watch
Yeah.
or...
I've got a funny Milestone game down in Melbourne. We actually played Melbourne Storm when it was Cam Smith's 400th game.
Good
so
luck.
it was, the preparation, it's always intense against Melbourne. You know you got to be at your best. Go down there and try and get a result. And I was actually injured that
Oh,
week. So
how convenient.
I didn't go
Yeah.
down.
Self-imposed
But-
injury, was it?
No, no,
Heartstring?
no.
What was it?
Paper cut.
I
Yeah.
remember we
Cramp.
finished the last training session, and then obviously the boys go straight to the airport, fly down there for the night. I just remember watching him walk out the gate to go down for his 400th game. I was like, "Good luck, fellas."
And what was...
Yeah, and the result wasn't.
The result wasn't pretty.
Wasn't
it wasn't
pretty.
pretty for the Sharks.
Can I ask a question without notice? Just
Yeah.
on cramp. Is it he's got cramp or he's got cramps?
Or is he cramping?
Oh, he's
Or
got
is he
a cramp.
cramping?
He's
Yeah,
got-
because I said the other night watching footy, he's gone down with cramp. He's got cramp. And I got questioned by several people that that's not correct English.
I would say he's got a cramp.
You can't say he's got cramp.
I'm gonna. No, I'm not. Being
No,
completely judgmental here, but I wouldn't
I
say
don't know
it.
because we had a heated discussion over
You and
this.
who?
One of them was my wife.
Okay.
The other one was one
I'd
of my
back
children.
her.
And another one was a mate
Oh,
and
wow.
his wife.
Yeah, I'd
And
back all of them against you.
Yeah, okay. I just thought I've always heard he's got cramp. He's got cramp.
No, he's got a cramp.
Is it a cramp?
He's got a cramp. Yeah.
He's got cramp.
Or he's got cramps.
Cramps.
Yeah,
That's
the-
what. See,
yeah.
this is the.
Here we go. The plural
Yeah.
AI Google says the plural of cramp is cramps. So
He's got. But can you
You're
say
in the
he's
wrong.
got cramp or
I
he's
don't
got?
think so.
No,
No,
because it's a singular then,
singular.
so it's a
A
cramp.
cramp. Yeah.
I swore
Wasn't
I
sure
was
we were going to
right.
get to this conversation.
That was,
No,
a, that
but
was a
that's-
brilliant question without notice. I can't wait for the rest of the show.
I've got more. I've got heaps more.
Reedy, yet despite it's open competition, it seems. Yet you today brought it down to two teams.
Didn't that age well?
You brought it down to Melbourne and Craig Bellamy taking on Ricky and the Raiders.
Well, and I still believe that. I mean, I don't think you can win it. I've said it from day one. I don't think you can win it from outside the top four.
Because
It's just too hard, Hindy.
Mm.
It's just too
Oh, look,
hard. You've got to win,
I'm
to
not
win the
neither- I'm
premiership
not- I'm
from
not
outside the top
disagreeing
four.
with you. I just
take
want- yeah.
Penrith. Take Penrith for example. There's
Yeah.
a side everyone thinks can win it from outside the top four. Week one, they may have to go to New Zealand
Yep.
or Brisbane. Win that, they've probably then got to play either Brisbane or the Warriors or Canterbury in front of 80,000 people at the Core Stadium.
Yeah.
Win that, they're going to play a prelim against Melbourne or Canberra, and then they get through that, they've got to beat one of them in the grand final. It's too hard.
Yeah.
And you can see, and I said it in that story, Tony, I reckon the fact they rested 16 players is like it's a Hail Mary play because they know they're up against it. And
well, they can rest again this week, can't they?
well, they could do
Or next
that.
one, next week,
I
yeah.
can't imagine they do it again. You wouldn't want to rest like 2 weeks in a row, would you? So, I think even they realise they're on life support at the moment. And the Warriors are going out the back door. I don't think Brisbane have got the consistency to win it. I think, and they'll have no Ezra.
They sneak into
Can
the
the-
top four,
yeah.
Brisbane.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
then they'll have to go play Melbourne in Melbourne
Can
week
the
one.
Chooks do it?
No.
No?
Well, they haven't been consistent all year,
Yeah,
Hindy. They're
yeah.
going to find it in the finals. I agree with you. They're a dangerous team. You wouldn't want to play them in week one of the
Yeah, yeah.
finals. But they can't win 4 in a row against those teams in the finals. So I just think that, particularly if Melbourne and Canberra win their opening finals and they get prelims in Melbourne and Canberra, it's just ready-made for those two. It'd be an amazing story too. Because those two guys, like Ricky was at the dinner on Wednesday night, and when he spoke about
yeah.
Craig, and he talked about the fact they didn't speak for a year at one point, and he almost started crying. He had to stop talking. That's how close they are. So for them to play in a grand final would be such a good story.
It'd be a great grand final
Oh,
too.
it
But
would
I suppose they deserve it as well if they do get there. They've finished 1 and 2. So look, yeah, I don't know. I can toss a coin. I think it can still be done from outside, but it's going to take some effort. But I still think it can always happen from outside the top 4.
Yeah, I think. Well, it's never been done before, and it's obviously
Who
the
was
harder.
last? Was it the Dogs
Well,
back
the Cowboys. The Cowboys went on a run, and they actually made the grand final against the Melbourne Storm, but they were just not good enough on that night. And Melbourne, again, because of the top 4, they had the week off. They were well rested, and you just saw the fatigue in the Cowboys because they were up for so long.
We came from 8th. I think we came from 8th in 09 against the Storm. Didn't win it, obviously.
Yeah, it's
Should have
just-
won it.
it's
But,
just hard.
things happen. Things out of my power that I can't control.
There's
like
no doubt.
salary caps.
There's no doubt it's a harder road. I just think in previous years we know Penrith have been dominating.
Yeah,
we know
yeah.
Melbourne have been dominated, and because they've showed, Canberra, that have been fantastic and the most consistent team all year, and they're rightfully going to win the minor premiership. But the other teams have showed inconsistencies, and you just get the feeling that if a Penrith can put it together for 4 weeks, if a Roosters can put it together for 4 weeks, then it's maybe the most open and most likely to ever see a team from outside the top 4 win.
Yeah, indeed. All right, the Roosters 40, the Storm 10. 133353. Give us a call if you want to ask Hindy your question. That's for later, but you need just to register. You can ask him about anything. Hangover cures might be interesting today.
Yeah. Cramp. You can ask me about cramp.
Ask him about
cramps.
133353 is the number. This is the Saturday Scrum. We're all for Thirsty Camel. Got to get into the Eels. They're just having a terrific little back end of their season with that win over the Warriors. Before we do that, though, Mark has given us a call at 133353. I think just with something to do with our cramping conversation. G'day, Mark.
G'day, how you going, boys?
Very well,
Mark.
thank you. What have you got for us?
Hindy.
Yep.
All you got to do is not say cramp. All you got to do is say he has cramped up. It's still the same tense, but it's not incorrect grammar.
Okay, so
So instead of saying he's got cramp, you say he has cramped up.
So is that incorrect grammar? That's the question I'm asking. Is he's got cramp?
No.
Incorrect grammar.
Correct. You would have to say he has got a cramp. But if you didn't want to say that, all you got to say is he's cramped up, which means it's the same tense used exactly the same way.
Can I say,
that's how I teach little kids.
Mark? Can I say he's got cramps?
He's got cramps. That's fine because you're using the plural.
Can I say
That's
he's
the
got
way-
So long as he does have more than one cramp at the time.
Yeah. Can I say he's
Correct.
got a cramps?
You can say if he's got a cramp or he's cramped up. That's all you got to say.
Are you a teacher, Mark, or something?
I am.
See, that's
I am.
good. Because I was wondering why, Heine's here agreeing to what you say and ignoring completely what we said before.
Because Mark sounds educated.
He does.
That's why.
I'm a bit dubious about cramped up, though. That doesn't sound like correct. No offence to Mark.
Mark's a school
I understand
teacher.
that, but,
Well, he's cramping
I
up.
went,
That is,
I went to
you've heard,
school as well.
You've heard people say he's cramping up.
Cramping up, but not he's cramped up.
I think he's cramped up is fine.
Is that okay?
It sounds okay to me, but I said he's got cramp.
Yeah.
Which is wrong.
Just another Saturday Scrum, solving the world's problems.
Exactly.
Cramped up.
Exactly. All right. Well, you'll be very happy, though, Heine, with your Eels. 26-22 over the Warriors. And it's a big game for the Warriors in terms of trying to get them to that top 4.
Yeah, well, there was a must-win for the Warriors to try and kind of hold on to that spot. And everyone's chasing them down. But, yeah, another great win from the Eels. I thought they were outstanding. Addo-Carr, I thought, laid the platform from early on. That scored that try in the opening 5 minutes. I think it was the third minute. So, look, they're playing a style of footy that we would have just imagine what it was like if they were playing that style at the start of the season. They'd be semi-final bound. They'd be in there. But that all comes down to Mitch Moses, I think, as well. Having him back in the side, he's gone to another level again this year with his kicking game, his running game, his passing game. So, look, and some of those young kids that have been in the side.
Iongi.
Iongi in particular. You got, who else? You got I've just gone blank, so this is what happens when you have a few beers.
Your brain's cramped up.
It has, it's got cramped.
Riley Smith.
Riley Smith,
Been great.
who was on train and trial.
He's been
So,
great,
Rolsey's got him firing. It's just a shame this wasn't happening at the start of the year. But you can see where they're heading. They've got, they can see that they've got a style of footy they want to play. They like to hit their back rowers wide. Their forwards got in the middle are going great. So, yeah, good win.
Well,
I would just say, and again, Parramatta definitely improving. It's a shame that Mitch Moses was missing for a lot of the season, but we always see this, year after year, a team at the end when the pressure is off, they can't make finals anymore.
But I think that the pressure was there from to skip away from that dread wooden spoon though as well, which does apply a bit of pressure. That particularly if you're a first year coach like Rolsey who's coming to the club.
And again, I'm not having a knock on it. I think there's improvement, but there's a sense of freedom you can play with when the result doesn't really matter. You can go out there, the shackles are off, you're happy to throw the ball around, and you can play with a sense of freedom. And then if you look at the Warriors and their demeanour, the way that they look like they were playing with that pressure.
A bit stiff.
They knew it was a big game. All of a sudden, you're second-guessing what you should be doing. Or the importance of the result, it starts to affect the way you play, and that's where the Warriors are.
A bit of panic can set in.
Yeah, that's where the Warriors were last night. You could tell that the result sort of meant so much to them, and they were trying hard, but sometimes when you try that extra hard, it leads to mistakes, and it freezes you up a bit. And Parramatta, fantastic, but the key for them next year is to do this when it counts, early in the season, and start to build your year so you can
Well, I think that'll be the question. Is this just because the shackles are off and there's nothing to play for? Is this the style of footy we're going to see round one next year from the Eels, which you kind of hope?
Well, you take confidence from the back end of the season.
Yeah.
And, of course, they're going to have Mitch, hopefully, for the majority of next year. And he's the most important player for the Parramatta Eels. But they'll be building in confidence, Parramatta, and they'll be excited about next year. Hopefully they can start the season playing this type of footy. Another year for Jason Riles. He'll have a much better feel heading into the preseason and know where they need to improve as a team. I think the biggest look is where the Warriors and how they currently tracking heading into the finals. It's been hard for them. Big injuries to Barnett, Metcalf in the halves, and they just haven't seemed to hit the heights that they were able to early in the season with those two big exclusions. So, listen, they're wobbling a little bit. If they don't make the top four, they're most likely going to be fifth and sixth. So they will get a home semi, which is a big advantage.
Yep.
But how far can they go with those big key injuries? Yeah. Well, we'll have to wait and see.
Tone, just quickly on Para, we talk about buys of the year. Christian Nicolucci's done a story on the buys of the year in the Herald today. Josh Addo-Carr has been so good for Parramatta. For a bloke who started the season under a bit of a dark cloud after the way he left the Dogs. I almost think he's playing well enough now that we've talked about Mark Nawaqanitawase before, and potentially being I don't know if we mentioned it, we were talking about this off air or on there about him potentially being part of that Kangaroos squad. Mate, Josh Addo-Carr's playing as well as he was when he was playing for Australia and New South Wales. And you talk to people at Parramatta about the influence he's had on that playing group and the young blokes of that playing group with his personality and his leadership. He's been such a good buy for them.
Yeah, well, I'll be the first to stick my hand up and say, look, I didn't think he was going to be a great buy, especially with the way he left the Dogs and what the circumstances were there. And I thought, well, what are we doing, getting the bloke like that across to the Eels, and what sort of example are we trying to set there? And the more he spoke to people at the club, within the club, the younger players at training, what you just said then, Reedy, about how much he influences or has to do with, getting those younger kids through games, the vibe he brings to training, the excitement he brings to every training session, they say, how he talks to the younger kids. He has been an outstanding buy for the Eels. But I was a little bit hesitant when they signed him, considering what happened at the Dogs. And look, he's been one of the best for the Eels all season.
Well, it's a credit to himself because he came out and said last year he was trying different things with his diet. He put on a bit of extra muscle mass.
He was on that meat diet, wasn't he? He was a bit too big, bit too heavy.
It's a credit to him. He tried something. He thought that might improve his game. It didn't go the way he wanted. So instead of, throwing the toys out the cot, he went, no, I'm going to go back and work hard at my diet, work hard at my body, and get back to the player that I used to be. And he's delivering on the weekend. And he's another guy who, and talk about the Ashes and our winger spots and our outside backs, who could potentially put his hand up and be on that plane.
Oh, you mentioned young guys at Parramatta coming through. 19-year-old Leka Halasima.
Oh, freak!
He's a monster.
He's a freak,
He's
isn't
so
he?
good.
Oh,
he's so good.
Both those tries he scored last night, like that we all know he's devastating. Like he can hit a hole hard, and he's doing what every other back rower now seems to have to be able to do is catch a high ball. Yeah. Like they're kicking for so many back rowers these days. So look, he's a freak, absolute freak. So make sure the Warriors have locked him in for a few more years to come, but. You almost got it back for them. Unfortunately, not close enough. But he's a superstar, that kid. As long as he keeps his head on his shoulders, which I think over there, having Webby as their coach, he'd be a great coach for that sort of stuff. Not letting someone get, too far ahead of themselves.
Yeah. What about the bunker decision?
I think they got it right. I think it was pretty clear it was right. I know a lot of people
because they were coming for the Warriors.
They
at
were.
that moment.
Well, if they score, then they win the game.
Yeah, because they would have.
They would have got it.
Scored beside the post, kick the two. They're up by two.
But I think it's the right call, Tone. I think. A lot of people blowing up about it. I don't know how.
Are they blowing up because you can clearly see it touches his fingers, right? And he says it touched his fingers.
But he said it went backwards.
After the game, but it went backwards.
Well, I don't.
He thought it went. I
think it's pretty clear it's gone forward.
That's the same as me.
So,
I
don't understand it broke a lot of hearts over there, but they got the call right, and that's why we've got the bunker.
That's true. There are sometimes, and look, it's not a sense of occasion rule because obviously. It's a very crucial one at that point of the game. But do we go into those things so forensically? The referee had, awarded a try, and we take all that time for a tiny, tiny touch.
But that's all it takes, Tone, a tiny, tiny touch. It's to get it right. That's what it's there for. And they got it right. We bag them when they get it wrong. Then when they get one right, we go...
Because they can get it wrong. But
occasionally they do. Yeah. But they get the vast majority right. That's what people seem to forget. People just... remember the bad ones, but they would get, I think they get 95 at least, 96, 97% right. And that one they got right, and they deserve credit for it rather than people going, oh, what are you doing? You ruined the game. They haven't ruined the game. Try telling Para they ruined the game.
No, that's absolutely true. Parramatta got the job done. 26 points to 22 over the Warriors. It's the Saturday Scrum, doing it for Thirsty Camel. Yes, indeed, the coaching merry-go-round continues to spin. Adam O'Brien is the one who has slipped off the horse. He's gone from the Newcastle Knights. I thought he handled the exit press conference with great dignity, and it was terrific.
He seemed very relaxed when he was doing it, didn't he? So it was like it was almost a weight was lifted off his shoulders in that press conference. And and you feel for him because it is. A lot of it's out of the noise is out of your hands. Apart from you, obviously got to win games to keep that noise away. But we're the ones that generate the noise and all that sort of stuff, and the fans and everyone. So you feel for him a bit. But I think it had to be done. I think the noise has been going on for too long, year after year. At the moment, yes, he's had. I'm not going to say he's had reasonable success there. He obviously hasn't done enough to keep his job, but I think it's the right decision. I think the club and O'Brien have come to the right decision. Separate, part ways. And let's start fresh next year. So I think it's good, and good luck to him.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's run its course, that relationship, and there's no doubt he did a commendable job up there, and he worked really hard, tirelessly. You could tell to try and turn that place around and lift that team to success. But there's no denying the weight and the burden that he would have been under with all the constant speculation, the commentary around is his job say. What does what's a pass mark for the Newcastle Knights? What keeps Adam O'Brien there? And I think, the time is right for them to go in a different direction. It's a big decision. I think it's the right decision for Adam himself and for the club. But the next one for me is who they pick as their coach, who they bring on. Do they hire from within? Because I don't think that, is necessarily the right way, because it's just basically the same system, same influence, guys who have been within that club. I don't think are going to lift them to the place they need to be. I think they need someone with fresh eyes, with fresh ideas, a fresh voice. And the timing is right for me. You have Dylan Brown coming on a long-term contract, so he's going to be a new feeling to that club. And if it was me in their position, I would be looking for someone outside the four walls to come in with a new voice and new ideas. Whether they can find their man and the right man for the job, I don't know what's available out there. I know Holbrook's been spoken about. Willie Peters from over in the Super League's been spoken about. He's done a wonderful job at Hull over there. Where they go and who they hire, I'm not too sure. But yeah, if I was in their position, I would be looking for an external voice to come in and freshen up the place.
Because it is an internal voice that the name Blake Green has come quite strongly.
And I think he should be favoured for the job. And I know people have gone, Blake Green's in charge of their attack. Look at how they've attacked this year. But 2 years ago, they had one of the best attack in the comp under when Blake Green was the attack coach. This year, they've had no Kalen. They've meddled with their halves all year. They've meddled with their hooking spot all year. I think it's been...
They've gone 11 first halves this year without scoring a point.
Yeah, but and again, I think they've had personnel issues this year. But what's the use of having a bloke in your system, right? And training him up to be the head coach and having him as your assistant, if you're not going to give him an opportunity.
But that's not what you do.
And as I said, Andy, 2 years ago...
But he's not sitting there. They're not training him up to become head coach.
2 years ago, when Kalen was fit the entire year, I think Kalen might have won the Dally M that year maybe. Their attack, I believe, was the best in the comp. If it wasn't the best, it was in the top 2 or 3. That was Blake Green. When Dylan Brown's been quoted, Chammy quoted Dylan Brown saying, one of the reasons I've come to the Knights, or when they pitched to Dylan Brown, Blake Green was the bloke who pitched. Blake Green was a guy who cut up vision for Dylan Brown, took him through how they would play, how they would use him. That was Blake Green. So Dylan Brown said that Blake Green played a huge part in me coming to the club. They were about to announce Trey Mooney. Blake Green led that. So I just think pointing to how they've attacked this year is really unfair on him because they've had so many injuries in their spine and they've messed around with their halves so much that I just think this year was an aberration. I think you've got to ignore it. And I think the head coach has paid the price for that.
Well, I read today that Blake Green is, I think, the best orator, they're saying, like a halftime orator, since Trent Robinson. So there is obviously a lot of people who do like what he does. Is how important, you mentioned Kalen Ponga, his dad, that kind of power section that's there. How important are those Carlin going to be in negotiations? Are they going to talk to him about who he wants?
You think they probably will have to, because he's obviously there's noise around him looking to go elsewhere. So
well, they'll speak to the senior players.
Yeah.
They'll speak to Carlin, Jacob Slafidi. I can't remember who else was in that group, but I spoke to the chairman again this week, and he said they would consult the senior players. So Carlin will get a say, but I don't think it'll be the definitive say. Because, look, Kalen's only there for potentially only 2 more years. So why are you going to go and get a coach based on Carlin if there's every chance he leaves in 2 years? So he will have a say, he will have input, but it won't be the deciding issue.
Yeah, I think, again, and this is no knock on Blake Green, I certainly respected him as a player. He was a fantastic player for a long time, and I just haven't been involved with him to see him coach and his coaching style. But the concern for me would be, when he retired, he was coached by Adam O'Brien. As a coach, when he started, his biggest influence was Adam O'Brien. So if he goes to that head coaching role, yes, he will have some ideas of his own and he'll have an idea of what he wants to do. But the man in charge and the man who taught him the most or had his most attention didn't get the job done the way he thought it should be done.
The only thing I would say there, Wade, no one played at more clubs than Blake Green, including the Melbourne Storm, and Craig was a huge influence on him.
Yeah,
so,
but not as a coach. He hasn't been side by side with him coaching with him. It's different to being a player than a coach.
Yeah, but he played under him. And I would argue, if you said to Blake Green, who's your biggest influence on how you coach and how you think, it's probably Craig. Because I think anyone who played under Craig, that's probably the view they take. And the other thing I would say at the moment is, there's no Cameron Ciraldo out there. There's no Josh Hannay out there. There's no guy you go, he's the next bloke. We've got to go and get him at the moment.
Yeah, I have no idea who they're going to get. I don't know if Greeny's the right man. I don't know if Justin Holbrook's the right man. I don't know if Willie Peters is going to be the right man. But
I don't think they're going to. I don't think Willie Peters is on their radar.
No, okay.
I think the guys on their radar are Justin Holbrook,
Dean Young getting floated.
Dean Young,
McDermott,
Blake Green, Brian McDermott. And there was one more I've forgotten. But I don't think it's Willie. No, I don't think Carlos. Not the list I heard.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're still in the process of finalising that
of course.
list.
I remember when Greeny used to be my little fat ball boy.
Did he?
Little roly-poly he was, up and down the sideline.
He was a good player.
He's
a great player, yeah.
And look, again, and this is...
He is a great communicator, though. He's a great bloke, actually.
He is. He's a fantastic bloke. Champion bloke. Yeah. He's good for a laugh, too, which surprises me. Yeah, being up there in Newcastle, I don't think too much to laugh about, but yeah.
So do you have Adam O'Brien? He seems very reluctant to immediately even consider going to a head coaching job. He'll come in and do an assistant coach's job, something a little less pressure.
Yeah, I think he's probably earned that little bit of a break. He's been under so much pressure and scrutiny for so long. I feel like every year we're talking about his job and whether it's safe. And we heard in that press conference, and I think we all agree, there was a bit of relief and a sense of the burden's gone, the weight's gone off my shoulders. And
the frown. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Because obviously every press conference he goes into, it's about obviously a defeat or, where's the club? Where's the club heading? What's going on? So you obviously get your back up after a while and get a bit bristly. But, the pressure on during the week, it just seemed calm. It just seemed like he's going, I've come to terms with it. Because it wouldn't be an easy decision, obviously. I know they said it was a mutual decision, but for him as a head coach, this is his career, this is what he wants to do, to go in there and say, no, I'm not the right man for the job anymore. That would be very tough when that's what you want to do for a living.
Given what you've all said and what Newcastle is, it's such an important place and it so loves its football team, but can get offside with them, as you know. Is it a great piece of real estate for a coach to come through now to get that job?
I think it's a decent squad. I mean, they've got basically their spine worked out. As long as Dylan Brown works out for the next at least 2 years. I mean, you look at that backline next year, it's going to be Kalen, Dom Young, Gagai, Bradman Best, Greg Marju, Fletcher Sharp, Dylan Brown. That's a pretty good backline. Oh, that's got some points in it.
Yeah.
And Dylan Lucas in the back row once he gets, because he was playing some really good footy in the back row.
Frizzell's done another year. Yeah. Jacob Safidi, Phoenix Crossland, New Zealand international. They're going to sign Trey Mooney. So for me, that squad's, part of the reason Adams leaving is because that squad should have gone a lot better this year. For me, it's a top 8 team next year. They're a top 8 team. If they get the coach right, and if Kalen plays, Wade's shaking his head. If Kalen played, the other coach was John Morris.
The bomber.
If Kalen plays 24 games, for me, they're a top 8 team.
No,
So
the key for me is the combination of Ponga and Dylan Brown. I love Dylan Brown as a player, and he's a fantastic 5'8". But we saw when Mitch Moses was out, and he was the main man in that halves position, that it actually takes away from his game. They need a number 7 who can control that team, be the general, get them around the park to help unlock Dylan Brown and unlock Kalen Ponga. And I think they still got some work to do. I think to make the top 8 next year, I think they've got some work to do.